Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that SCR 10 be brought directly to the calendar.
Members, you've heard the unanimous consent request. Without objection, that will be the order.
Mr. President, I ask that the resolution be read and at the appropriate time move for adoption of the resolution.
Clerk will read.
Whereas Dr. Glen D. Johnson became the 8th Chancellor of the Oklahoma State System of Higher Education on January 2007 after a national search. He has provided leadership on matters relating to standards for higher education, courses and programs of study, budget allocations for institutions, fees and tuition, and strategic planning. Johnson is responsible for an annual higher education budget in excess of $2.4 billion and oversees numerous programs which are integral to the support of Oklahoma's higher education system. And whereas Johnson had previously served as the 16th president of Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant for 10 years, during his tenure, Johnson initiated the president's leadership class and the president's partners donor program. Among his many accomplishments there, he implemented an $85 million capital campaign for the campus. And whereas Johnson previously served as Director of Public Policy and Adjunct Professor of Law at the University of Oklahoma College of Law, and whereas prior to his work at OU, Johnson served in the Oklahoma House of Representatives from 1982 to 1996, and he was Speaker of the House for 3 terms from 1990 to 1996. At the time of his election as Speaker, he was the youngest sitting Speaker in the United States. Prior to that, he served in several key leadership positions, including House Majority Floor Leader, House Appropriations and Budget Committee Chair, House Majority Caucus Chair, and House Judiciary Committee Chair. In 1980, Johnson was elected as a member of the Okemah Board of Education. And whereas Johnson was born into a family dedicated to public service, he's the son of former United States Congressman Glen D. Johnson Sr. and Imogene Johnson. Johnson's wife, Melinda, is a recently retired classroom teacher from Edmond Memorial High School. And whereas throughout Johnson's career, he has championed education at every level in Oklahoma, recognized both statewide and nationally as a strong, untiring advocate for funding for education. As Chancellor, he has represented Oklahoma well through leadership positions with numerous national organizations, including the State Higher Education Executive Officers Association, the Southern Regional Education Board, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, and the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges. He is currently the longest-serving Chancellor System head in the nation. And whereas Chancellor Johnson has been the recipient of numerous awards and recognitions throughout his career, including induction into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, Oklahoma's highest honor, in 2006, and induction into the Oklahoma Higher Education Hall of Fame in 2016. He also was the recipient of the State Higher Education Executive Officers Association Exceptional Leader Award, honoring the outstanding higher education chancellor system head in the nation in 2019, and Leadership Oklahoma's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the first session of the 58th Oklahoma Legislature, the House of Representatives concurring therein, that the legislature honors Chancellor Glen D. Johnson and expresses gratitude for his 39 years of public service on behalf of the state of Oklahoma. Chancellor Johnson has consistently comported himself with integrity, sincerity, respectfulness, and determination during his distinguished career in public service. That the legislature wishes him the very best as he retires as Chancellor and begins the next chapter of his life, and that a copy of this resolution be distributed to Dr. Glen D. Johnson.
Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all members of the Senate be made co-authors, given the right to refuse to those who so desire.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Without objection, that will be the order. Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it's been my honor to know Glen Johnson from 1983. I moved to Okemah, his hometown. His mother, Imogene Johnson, and a good friend of mine, Inez Hall, were almost inseparable. We've been friends for many, many years, long before he and Melinda were married. Whenever he was elected the youngest speaker in the nation in 1990, I was his chaplain for the day on that particular day. So our friendship goes way back. Mr. President, with your permission, I'd like for the Chancellor to be able to use the floor leader's mic for 2 minutes and without a slide presentation.
But Senator Thompson, we need to adopt the resolution first, and then I would be happy for the Chancellor to have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Members, you've heard the motion. Will there be questions of the author? Seeing none, will there be debate? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with your permission, the Chancellor speak for 2 minutes without slide presentation to the chamber.
Chancellor Johnson, you are recognized for a non-PowerPoint 2-minute presentation using the floor leader's microphone.
Okay. I feel the pressure. Okay. President Pro Tem Treat, Senator Thompson, Floor Leader David, members of the Senate, thank you for doing this today. I will be cognizant of my time limit, but I want to take part of my time to introduce my best friend in life, the love of my life, my wife, Melinda. So please let me take a moment to introduce Melinda. We also have in our gallery today, and I'm very honored, Senator Thompson, certainly honored that the Senate would do this today, members of the state regents, members, my colleagues, the college and university presidents, members of our legislative network, a number of folks in the higher ed family, staff from our state regents. I would like to take a moment to ask them to stand and let us thank them for their service. State regents, presidents, and our staff. Senator Thompson knows I'm going to share one quick story. This is a true story that is an indication of if you run for office, as everybody in this room knows, you got to have a thick skin. I got elected in 1982, as the resolution mentioned. In 84 and 86, I did not draw an opponent, which I quickly found out was the easiest way to get reelected. But in 1988, after 3 terms, I drew an opponent. So I started going to the meetings again, speakings, events. On this particular day, I was at the Pride Day parade in Walika, Oklahoma. I had somebody driving my truck in the parade. I was walking down the street, and I had a guy come up, and he said, "Hold on here, son, what's your name?" I said, "Glen Johnson." He said, "What are you running for?" Which I didn't think was a very good sign since I've been in office for 6 years. But I said, "Well, I'm running for state representative." He said, "Well, you go ahead and write this down." He said, "I'm going to vote for you." I said, "Well, thank you." He said, "The way I look at it is anybody'd be better than the guy we got in there right now." So, been looking for him ever since. It didn't get better in the House. One day in the middle of debate, I literally lost my voice when I was presiding. I left the chamber, went down to University Hospital, went into the emergency room. Everything was okay, just laryngitis. But as I was coming out, literally, the nurse brought me a resolution from the House of Representatives, and it said to Speaker Glen Johnson, "The Oklahoma House of Representatives wishes you a very speedy recovery by a vote of 51 to 49. Still got that one on my wall. Well, let me do this. I know time is limited. Senator, very seriously, and all members of the Senate, I'm deeply honored that you would do this today, and I sincerely mean that. This is a personal and it's a family moment for Melinda and me. Senator knew of my dad 80 years ago, and if you go over on the House side, you'll see the composite photo. My dad served in the state legislature in the House from 1940 to 1942, before World War II. Shortly after the bombing at Pearl Harbor, he resigned from the legislature to enlist in the U.S. Army. 4 years later, was discharged as a major and ran for Congress, was in a freshman congressional class with John Kennedy, Richard Nixon, and Oklahoman Carl Albert. He was assistant floor leader during his one term in the legislature. And I say all that to let you know that he told me he passed away, as Senator Thompson knows, in February of '83, 4 months after my swearing in as a new House member. And as I was getting ready to come up for my first day, he said, I want to tell you something. My time in the legislature was the best time that I had in public service. He said the debates on policy, the camaraderie, the friendships, the opportunity to weigh in on the issues of the day, he said truly were the best times that I had in public service. They certainly were for him, and I can tell you that 40 years later, as I took my seat in the House, they were every bit as meaningful for me. I immediately, just as every one of you have done, established friendships that have stayed with me to this day. I was on the phone yesterday with a member of my legislative class, Jim Reese, who is in the gallery today. I served with. He was a great friend and colleague, and I know each of you have those relationships. I think what I want you to know is those that I formed during my time here have endured literally for a lifetime. I would say that I want to thank everyone here. I had two goals in life. One was public service, the other higher education. Serving in the legislature for 14 years and 25 years in higher education, hopefully as a university president and as your chancellor, I have hopefully played a small part in giving our students the opportunity to achieve and realize their dreams through a college education. I want to take a moment from a perspective of a former House member and a former member of the legislature to thank each of you for your public service, for your commitment, and for the sacrifices that each of you make. I know that people will say from time to time, nobody makes you run for this job. And while that's true, I can say, and I think everybody here knows, no one serves in these jobs without to some degree experiencing personal and professional strain, and certainly strain on your family. So today, as a citizen of Oklahoma, I very sincerely want to thank each of you for your service. I sense that a lot of you felt the same way that I felt in November of 1982 when I walked into this Capitol building for the first time as a newly elected member of the legislature, representing Senator Thompson, Okfuskee, Hughes, and Okmulgee County, much of, or at least some of the district that you represent today. I felt a great sense of anticipation and excitement and duty as I started my first day in the legislature. 14 years later, in November of 1996, as Speaker of the House, I felt that same sense of excitement and commitment and fulfillment and duty as I left this building for the last time as an elected member of the legislature. I very strongly believe that public service is a noble profession, and it's been my privilege to be part of it. Melinda and I are deeply touched by the Senate taking time, when I know this is the busiest time of the year for you, to recognize me for my service to Oklahoma. I want to close with a quote from Oklahoma United States Senator Thomas P. Gore, who served our state in the United States Senate from 1908 to 1936. Senator Gore said this about our beloved state of Oklahoma. He said, "Oklahoma, I love you, every blade of grass, every grain of sand. We are proud of our past and very confident of our future." So I will close today as I say thank you again very sincerely by saying that I think today all of us can stand up and stand tall and say very proudly that we're proud to be Oklahomans. Thank you so much, and thank you for honoring us this way today. Melinda and I are deeply appreciative. Thank you, Senator Thompson.